Welcome to Adam's Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back to listen to this episode about Ted Cruz calling the January 6th protesters and rioters terrorists. I'm sure many of you have seen by now the Fox News segment of Tucker Carlson's show where he asked Senator Cruz what he meant by calling the January 6 rioters as terrorists. For approximately 5 minutes, Ted Cruz does a pretty typical dancing around the question with words and semi-related topics. And all the meanwhile, Tucker Carlson is relentlessly refusing to back down from his question. Let's go ahead and watch a little bit of the clip.
Senator Cruz was game enough to come on tonight. We appreciate that. He joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists. And that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Like, why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that. So why'd you do it?
So, Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I use that word, for a decade, I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again. That being said, Tucker, I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday. And the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats in the media twisting words and trying to say that all of us are terrorists, trying to say you're a terrorist, I'm a terrorist. And so, look, I don't like people who assault cops. And I stand up and defend cops. And the reason I use that word is that's the word I've always used for people that violently attack cops. But in this context, I get why people were angry, because we've had a year of the corrupt corporate media and Democrats claiming anyone who objected to the election fraud. And by the way, remember what was happening during those protests?
Can I just ask, hold on, you work in the I guess I just don't believe you. And I mean that with respect, because I have such respect for your acuity and your precision. And I've seen it on display. I've covered you as a reporter. I know how you speak. And you have sat there for a year and watched people use language to distort the events of that day. Intentionally. Insurrection. Coup.
Of course it
terrorism.
Wasn't an insurrection. Saying it's an insurrection is a political term. It's a lie. I've repeatedly denounced it. And when it comes to, look, I was focusing on what I normally say. That what you aired was a little 15-second snippet. What I normally say is violence is wrong, peaceful protest is right. If you engage in violence, you should be prosecuted. If you're speaking, you have a right to speak. I say that all the time.
Well, I agree.
Let me start off by saying this episode isn't so much to attack Ted Cruz for his poor choice of words As we can see at the end of this next clip, he admits his verbiage was a mistake, after almost 6 minutes of being asked the same question, more or less. And I can respect that, but I personally can't quite accept his answer, and here's why. When I lived in Colorado and Jared Polis was governor, there was many times that the Colorado government was failing in situations, and I would reach out and call the governor's office to voice my concerns and frustrations, and I even invited him to breakfast, my treat, to discuss my concerns. I never heard back from Polis. So on several occasions, I called down to Texas, to Ted Cruz's office, because I saw him as one of the last strong-willed Republicans in Congress who might be able to shed light and attention to the problems that Colorado was having.
So who's Ray Epps, by the way, since you are a senator? Like, he and this other guy are clearly encouraging the crowd to commit crimes. Neither one has been arrested or charged. What is that, do you think?
So I think that is a very good question. I don't know who Ray Epps is. I've seen that video multiple times. It's disturbing. He's clearly urging the crowd to violate the law. When you see the crowd start chanting, Fed, 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 for him to appear on the FBI's most wanted list and come off, it certainly suggests he was working for the FBI. That's not conclusive, but that's the obvious implication. And the Attorney General and the Department of Justice won't answer the question. Tucker, I can tell you, I joined with a number of other senators trying to get the Biden DOJ to answer the question why so many January 6 prisoners are in solitary confinement, why they're being treated so much worse than the Antifa rioters and the people who committed firebombing and a year of riots across the country. And this Biden DOJ won't go after them. But let me also make a quick point, Tucker. Remember, while thousands of people were standing up to defend this country on January 6th, at that exact moment, I was standing on the Senate floor objecting to the election results, demanding that we impanel an election commission to consider evidence of voter fraud. And I brought together 11 senators to join me in supporting getting to the bottom of that. So, of course, it would be ridiculous for me to be saying that the people standing up and protesting to follow the law were somehow terrorists. I was talking about people who commit violence against cops. And you and I both agree, if you commit violence against cops, you should go to jail.
Yeah, but you're not a terrorist. You know, you're not. You're a guy who assaulted a cop. Okay, so there's a legal difference, as you well know, better than I do, since you were actually in the running for the Supreme Court. And there's a moral difference between a guy,
but Tucker, the reason I use that word is for a decade I've used that word for people that violently assault cops. I use that word all in 2020 for the Antifa and BLM terrorists that assaulted cops and firebombed police cars. But I agree, it was a mistake to use the word yesterday because the Democrats and the corporate media have so politicized it. They're trying to paint everyone as a terrorist, and it's a lie. Exactly. And by the way, I've spoken out vocally against your exchange you just had. They want to paint us as Nazis. Yes,
I know, it's scary.
That is what they're trying to do. And look, I'm the one leading the fight in the Senate against this garbage. And it's what I have been doing, and it's what I'll continue doing.
Well, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you very much, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas.
So for me to see a sitting Republican senator call the people who attack the cops terrorists, it just rubs me the wrong way. He knows and understands the legal and moral differences, as Tucker Carlson put it, between a thug who attacked an officer and a terrorist. If you've seen my video on January 6th, then you would know that this day was never an insurrection, a rebellion, or an attack on the Capitol, or an armed insurrection where many people died. One protester died from the actions of a police officer. Other people died from health complications. As stated in my January 6th video, nobody who has been arrested in connection with the riot on January 6th has been charged with insurrection, treason, or sedition. And don't you dare forget that the Constitution allows the people to overthrow the government if and when it becomes tyrannical. Ted Cruz was correct when he said he called BLM and Antifa rioters terrorists over the summer of 2020. And I would agree with him there. BLM and Antifa use their demonstrations, riots, or pogroms to terrorize political opponents and innocent bystanders. They assault cops regularly and call for their execution. They call for the death of journalists. BLM and Antifa use political violence to further promote their ideological agenda. That is terrorism. A bunch of people, a fair amount of whom were allowed into the Capitol by police officers, are not terrorists. A few hundred people who assaulted police officers, I'll give you that, potentially at just this one rally, were locked up as terrorists, some of whom hadn't even been charged with the crime. Even if you fought your way into the Capitol, you did what once you got in? You pooped on someone's desk? You took a podium. But no weapons were found, correct? Nobody was killed by this mostly peaceful crowd, correct? This isn't terrorism, and it never was. This is what bothers me. Even if it was a mistake, words hold meaning. Maybe not so much in this day and age, where people are constantly changing the meaning of words. But to people like me, words hold value and meaning. And to lump patriots in with scum and evil like Antifa and BLM, it sickens me. This was certainly a point for me to say that I won't vote for Ted Cruz in the future for anything. It's not like he made an irreparable mistake. He used the wrong words, allegedly, and he apologized for it, to which I can give him credit. But to me, this doesn't change the fact that he admits to saying it to appease his Democratic colleagues. Why is the Democratic establishment unwilling and outright refusing to call January 6th anything other than an armed, violent attack on our nation's capital that left many dead and hundreds in fear for their life? Let's take a look to the future. Now, obviously we can't really do that. This is just my hypothesis. But in 2024, it sounds like we could very well get a rerun of 2016. Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. This is because Sleepy Joe is a failure and a mentally ineffective and deficient president. No Democrat likes Kamala Harris or would even want her in office when she couldn't even do anything as vice president. The Democratic Party has no future. They have no ammo. So they know that if the Republicans push Trump in 2024, their best bet to defeat Trump would be Hillary. But we already know how that turned out once, and Hillary is even more despised today than she was in 2016. So what do they intend to do? Democrats are looking into a way to use the 14th Amendment to ban Trump from running again. From the New York Post, Callie Pattison writes, Democrats explore barring Trump from holding office over January 6th riot. And in her article, she writes, a handful of congressional Democrats are investigating whether former President Donald Trump can be prevented from holding elected office again through the application of an obscure portion of the 14th Amendment. Section 3 of the amendment, enacted in 1868 and best known for enshrining the Equal Protection Clause, prevents any government official who engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the U.S. from holding office again. Now, can you see why Trump's name isn't going away? Now can you see what the Democrats intend to make January 6th out to be? Now, can you see the real-world implications of the important and serious nature of words? Calling people terrorists, who were not such, allows the Democrats to say in the future that even Republican leaders called this terrorism, and therefore Trump should be banned from running for office again. Are you crazy? That is fascism. That is Joe Biden, the Democratic establishment, and their media and big tech conglomerates using fascism to improperly and illegally use laws on American citizens. You're going to change the definition of terrorism and insurrection just so someone who would probably win the next election can't even run? That is political fascism. I don't know how else to say it or to explain it. A fascist refuses to leave power. To those who called Trump a fascist and then he conceded his presidency, I say screw you. To those that refuse to call Biden and the Democrats the fascists and the Marxists that they are, when they obviously are trying to do everything they can, legal or not, to stop a U.S. citizen from running for office, I say, in my opinion, get out of this country. Leave America to the Americans who love this place. Please leave and go to your socialist or communist utopia where your dictator will be glad to add you to their body count. I don't like that Ted Cruz called Patriots to be terrorists. There was certainly criminality on January 6th, but no terrorism. And to call it that, simply so your enemy on the other side of the aisle feels better about your verbiage, you lost your strength in that moment, Ted Cruz, and that was too much for me. I won't vote for a Republican who isn't fully behind their own message. I won't vote for a Republican who misuses serious words that can have an effect on somebody's life and livelihood. Ted Cruz isn't a bad person, but what he said and why he said it is a lesson that he will have to learn from. Now that's where I'll leave today's episode about the importance of words. I appreciate you coming back to my Athenaeum to listen to the news. If you have friends who haven't heard of this story yet, please feel free to share this video. If you like the work and progress that I'm making as a content creator, please feel free to leave a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos which are always released Thursday morning. I hope to see you back next week at Adam's Athenaeum for our next episode.